ladies and gentlemen. If I can have your attention, I need to make an announcement. I'm Gene Culpepper. I directed tonight's play. The circumstances surrounding our production are a little unusual. I was flattered when Mr. St. John, who wrote Murders in the Air, as you probably noticed on your program, Heir is spelled H-E-I-R, Murders in the Air, get it? Yes. Well, as I was saying, I was flattered when Mr. St. John contacted me and asked me to direct his play's premiere production. Actually, it was a work in progress, and he made several changes and rewrites throughout the rehearsal period. While it was very exciting to be part of creating a brand new work, to tell you the truth, it put quite a strain on me, the playwright, and the cast.
You got that right.
Be quiet, Joel. Actors should be unseen and unheard until the curtain opens. Sorry about that. The thing is, we're feeling a little nervous about the show because it's not quite finished yet. Oh, don't worry, we're going to go on. The show must go on, as someone once said. I don't know who said it, but I love to get my hands around his neck. Anyway, as I was saying, it isn't quite finished. Many of the characters have grave motives to kill. Well, you'll see who. The thing is, Mr. St. John couldn't make up his mind which character should be the murderer. In fact, he wrote several different endings in which the various suspects were revealed to be the murderer. We performed them all for him, and he still couldn't decide. As it got closer and closer to the opening night, the tension in the air, that's A-I-R, grew so thick that you could cut it with a knife. It got so bad that Mr. St. John had what I feel sure to prove to be a temporary breakdown. The reason he's not here with us tonight is because he's presently under heavy sedation in a very nice place, surrounded by lots of softballs and padding. The cast and I are here, though, and determined to provide an entertaining show for you, even if it kills us. That's just a figure of speech, of course. That brings me to the main point of my being up here, to announce that you're going to have to help us. If you look in your programs, you'll see a ballot of sorts. We'll need you to vote on which character you think is the murderer. For the second act, we'll perform the ending that Mr. St. John wrote that has the character the majority will choose as the murderer. At least, that's what we'll hope will happen. It got very confusing during the rehearsals.
It's a wonder why we didn't kill the playwright.
Quiet! Look, we might as well get started. I'll be back in the booth where I can follow the script and maybe help out if things get a little bit shaky. Which they won't, but just in case. You ready, Cass?
Ready as we're gonna be.
Yes, well then, let's do it. Places, lights.
I'm sorry, Miss Withers. I'm just frightened.
I dare say it's like scare will do you no harm. However, science shot the men in his 90s, and Mr. Starkweather's medical condition could fail. Remember that, girl.
I will. I guess this terrible storm has just made me a bit edgy.
I presume all of the guests have been shown to their rooms?
Yes. All but Mr. Starkweather's grandson, Mr. Simon III. It's a long drive from his college, and the storm, you know.
I hope we can start without him. It is already past Mr. Starkweather's bedtime, and he must have a sleep.
I assure you, Miss Withers, the room is spotlessly clean.
I certainly hope so. Mr. Starkweather's asthmatic condition makes the nearest amount of dust potentially legal.
Starkweather's housekeeper long before you came here, Miss Withers. I don't need you telling me how to do my job. About the coffee?
Yes, it's right here on the table, Mrs. Trent.
Then go back to the kitchen and help Minerva with the rest of the refreshments.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Starkweather wishes to have everyone present at 8 o'clock sharp in the drawing room. I've asked Betsoners to fetch the guests.
Mr. Starkweather will be ready. I'm coming, Mr. Starkweather.
I done got all the cars parked in the gear I'd like to told to, Mr. Bensonhurst.
As I told you, always, my man. You're drinking water all over the toilet. Besides, I've told you countless times that servants never enter through the front door.
I reckon I forgot, Mr. Bensonhurst. Besides, it's raining out there.
I am aware of that. It now looks as if it has been raining in here, thanks to you.
You're welcome.
That was the way you came, and you lead yourself around to the back door. Do you think you can manage that?
I don't know, but I suppose we're gonna find out.
When the final guest, young Mr. Simon, arrives, I shall summon you so you can park his car.
While I'm waiting out there, I'll see if I can't grow gills.
Don't be impertinent.
How can I if I don't know what it means?
Just go to the kitchen and wait there until I call. Not that way. Have you forgotten already that I told you to go around to the back door?
Nope, but I was hoping you had.
That man's an idiot.
I hear that!
Where would you like me to put this one, Minerva?
On the coffee table. Careful with it.
Yes, ma'am. I think everything is ready.
You think wrong. Place the cups on the saucers, so all we'll have to do is pour the coffee.
Yes, ma'am.
The others are coming down. Mr. Van Zandt informed me that Mr. Starkweather wishes the staff to be present as well.
He wants the servants here?
Precisely. Even Rufus. Had I been informed of that fact sooner, I would have ordered him to take a bath. He has been out in the rain parking cars, so perhaps that will help.
If you ask me, Noah's flood wouldn't help.
Be that as it may, I shall summon him and Mrs. Trent.
But why would Mr. Starkweather want the servants to be here?
I'll pull out my crystal ball and let you know. Do you remember what I told you when you came to work here?
Yes. Do as you're told and don't ask questions.
Exactly. Stick to that.
I will, Minerva.
Oh dear, I never know what to wear on special occasions. I suppose Uncle Simon's inviting us here is a special occasion, isn't it, Jordan?
I suppose so, when most of the time he treats us like lepers.
You think Uncle Simon treats us like jungle cats?
Not leopards, mother. Lepers. Oh, forget it. And don't worry, you look fine.
Thank you, son.
I'll tell you one thing's for sure. If we ever inherit this mausoleum, the first thing we'll do is call up the Addams family and tell them it's on the market.
Me?
Minerva, we didn't see you there, and your attractive young helper.
Nancy is a nice girl, and I mean for her to stay that way.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
I doubt that.
I don't understand.
I believe that. Miss Fiona, why don't you have a seat and we'll bring you some coffee.
Coffee? That sounds nice. It's a little damp in here.
That's because it's a lot damp out there. How do you take your coffee?
Mother prefers hers black. I like mine sweet. I'll flavor it myself.
Whatever.
Ooh, what lovely hors d'oeuvres. These are delicious.
Glad you like them.
You're looking very pretty tonight, Nancy.
Thank you, sir.
Sir? Why that make you feel as old as Uncle Simon himself? Call me Jordan.
She'll call you Mr. Starkweather the way a proper maid should. If anyone calls you another name, it'll be me. And you don't want to know which one I'm thinking.
Minerva, you never change.
Neither do you. More's the pity. Now take a seat next to your mother.
Yes, drill sergeant.
My goodness, Kathy. I don't see how y'all can stand living out here in the boonies. Away from all those fine restaurants, shopping centers, movie theaters. Well, I get so depressed, I just sit down and wait. It's not that bad, Paula. I stay here during the week and go to my apartment in town most weekends. Oh, I am so relieved to hear that. I worked for a large corporation before Mr. Starkweather hired me to be his personal secretary. And believe me, this position is much nicer.
Look what we have here. 2 lovely rays of sunshine to dispel the gloom. You're looking pretty tonight, ladies.
Oh, Cousin Jordan, you are a rogue and a charmer.
I do my best. Won't you join us?
Have a seat over there. You'll be safer. We'll bring you some coffee.
Thank you, Minerva. I take mine black. Load mine down with lots of cream and sugar. I must admit, I have one enormous sweet tooth.
Maybe that's what causes that corn syrup accent.
Cousin Fiona, how are you doing this evening? What? Oh, I'm doing very well, thank you, Paula. Oh, that's just peachy. I swear I don't see how we don't get together more often. I feel like the only time we do get together is for somebody's funeral.
Well, aren't all funerals for somebody?
Shame on you. Don't be morbid, Cousin Jordan. I'm glad that this weekend's an exception to the rule. For once, no one's dead.
For now, at least.
That's alright, you didn't spend it. What did you mean by that remark, Jordan?
Oh, nothing. It's just that when you called to tell that Gretel Simon wanted Mother and I to come to Starkweather Mansion for the weekend, I thought you were going to tell us that he had passed on.
You wish.
I started to pack my new black dress.
It was a natural assumption, saying that Gretel Simon is up in age and all. But I was relieved to hear that the old boy is still with us.
Ha. Happy darling. I'm sure you know why Greg Simon acquired our presents almost rightfully. Come on, Tail. Mr. Van Zandt will go into the particulars, but I believe Mr. Starkweather wishes to discuss his will.
Really?
I'd appreciate it if you didn't drool on the hors d'oeuvres.
Minerva, you misjudged me. I was surprised, that's all.
Uh-huh.
And where's Mr. Simon? Shouldn't he be here too? When I contacted him last week, he said he could make it. I guess he's going to be late. He tried to call here tonight. He couldn't get through. The phone lines are down. Well, he should be here if we're talking about the will. After all, he's Grandma Simon's only grandchild.
Yeah, and he'll probably get everything.
Excuse me a minute. I suggested to Mr. St. John that these family relationships might be a bit confusing. He agreed and was going to write a scene that explained it all when he snapped like a rubber band. So I'll just tell you. I think the family tree's in your program too. Here's the way it works. Simon Starkweather, the old billionaire whom you'll meet shortly, late in life and produced one heir, Simon Jr. Simon Jr. in turn produced one son, Simon Starkweather III, the college student who's late for the gathering. The original Mrs. Starkweather, Simon II, and his wife are now deceased. Simon's older brother, Paul, married and had a daughter, Bella, who married Lucian Thompson, an Atlanta businessman. They had Paula here. Paul, his wife, Lucian, and Bella are now deceased. Simon's younger brother, John, married, and they had Ezra, who married Fiona here, and they had Jordan. This is Jordan. But you know that already. Anyway, John, his wife, and Ezra are now deceased. I realize that's a lot of dead people, but if they all been put into play too, it would look like a marching band had just wandered into the living room. Believe me, it was hard enough moving everyone about the stage as it was. At any rate, old Simon is Fiona's uncle by marriage, so that makes Jordan, young Simon, and Paul cousins. Second or third. I don't really understand how that works. Anyway, I hope that cleared things up for you. Carry on.
But we don't have the phone. Just are.
I'm not even sure who I am anymore.
Oh, yeah, begin with Devin and Andrew's entrance. Kenton,
Huh?
give them their entrance cue.
What is it?
And he'll probably get everything.
Who will?
Your cousin Simon.
Oh, yeah. And he'll probably get everything.
I am very pleased with your investigation. I'll be glad to recommend you to my other clients.
Just doing my job, Mr. Van Zandt.
Good evening, everyone.
I know we haven't met yet, but I have a pretty good idea of who you all are. Mrs. Starkweather and her son, Jordan, right?
That's right. And you are Mr.
Davis. Call me Mike.
From what Mr. Van Zandt has just said, I assume you're some sort of investigator?
You got it, pal. The private kind.
I see.
Who is this nice young man, dear?
He's a detective.
A detective? How exciting! Do you know Jessica Fletcher?
I'm afraid not, ma'am. She's way out of line. I do know who you two ladies must be, though.
If you're a private investigator, I would subscribe if you didn't.
The accent settles it. You're Paula Thompson.
And you're 100% right. I can't deny I'm from the deep south.
If you came from any deeper south, you'd live in Central America.
Which makes you Kathy Collins. It's nice to finally meet you.
Me too, Mike. Mike and I correspond from sometime by email and text on Mr. Starkweather's behalf.
Is this seat taken? I'll park it here.
And I expect you to remain unobtrusive.
After Wilson's icon dictionary, look it up.
Just sit over there by the fire and keep quiet.
By the fire? Glad to. My backside's still kind of soggy.
Keep an eye on him.
I shall do my best.
If all is in readiness, Mr. Van Zandt, I shall inform Mr. Starkweather.
Yes, thank you, Bensonhurst.
There's coffee if anybody else wants some.
I'll have some.
How do you take it?
In a cup!
Black, please.
Keep still.
Mr. Van Zandt, I understood we're here to talk about the will.
That is correct. Frankly, I did not think it was a good idea. Mr. Starkweather's health is precarious at best. He doesn't need the excitement. I advised him to communicate with you by mail, but he insisted on summoning you to the Starkweather mansion. I only hope he does not live to regret that decision.
Miss Withers is bringing Mr. Starkweather in to join us.
Here you are, Mr. Starkweather. Go. I'll be right here if you need me.
To think that my world was once surrounded by presidents and kings, and my world have shrunk to this, a small staff of hired help and a handful of relatives. Where's my grandson Simon at?
You presume he's on his way, Mr. Starkweather?
Can't wait for him. Not enough time anymore.
Good evening, beautiful Simon. You're looking well.
Are you blind, boy, or just a habitual liar?
I was only making pleasantries.
Save your breath. You've always been a smooth talker, Jordan. You're nothing but a greedy opportunist, boy. I should know. I was one at your age.
Then I guess it runs in the family.
You have a point. Well, Fiona, you look the same.
I do. Why, thank you, Uncle.
It wasn't necessarily meant as a compliment.
Oh, Uncle Simon, you're just awful.
At my age and with my money, I can afford to say anything that I think, and I do. And how is my George Peach?
A little peachy.
I may barf. Would you care for some coffee, Mr. Starkweather?
He mustn't have any. The caffeine will keep him awake and could affect his blood pressure. Sometimes his medications cause him to run a little high.
Apparently, I won't be having any Minerva. You heard my keeper.
Yes, sir.
Everyone aspires to live to a ripe old age, and for what? To be kept alive by medicines and machines. To be kept from enjoying life's little pleasures such as a cup of coffee.
You mustn't excite yourself, Mr. Starkweather.
You see, I'm not even allowed to feel any strong emotions.
Well, that's a bummer.
Ah, you put it very succinctly, Rufus. Old age is a bummer. I could have searched my vocabulary extensively and not come up with such an apt description as bummer.
I'm glad you like it.
According to my doctors, I won't have to remain a prisoner in this weak, old body much longer. There's only one thing I hate to leave behind. My money.
You know what they say, Uncle. You can't take it with you.
I know that's what they said. So several years ago, I had Louis here draw up my will. I suppose you would be curious how I provide for you. My heirs.
I, for one, admit I'm just a teensy bit curious.
A teensy bit, eh?
Would you please help me with this?
Here, Mr. Starkweather. Breathe deeply. See what you've done?
Someone call an ambulance.
We can't. The bones are dead.
It's all right. He lost his breath. He just needs to breathe pure oxygen for a few moments.
Tell me this.
Very well. This is the will Mr. Starkweather was referring to. As you know, he has been a phenomenally successful businessman for many years.
I'll say he's been on the cover of Forbes magazine at least a dozen times.
I've never read it.
He has the distinction of becoming one of the world's first billionaires.
20 years ago, I begged dear Ezra to ask him for the Simon to advise him on his business investments, but he was too proud.
Yeah, Dad had his pride. Lots of pride and very little money.
If I may continue, Mr. Starkweather's fortune is now worth in the neighborhood of $50 billion.
Darn.
That's a lot of money.
If I'd known that, I'd ask for a raise.
I won't go into the details of the will, but it essentially bequeaths $1 million to each of his household staff. Mr. Bensonhurst, his butler, Mrs. Trent, his housekeeper, Minerva Walker, his cook, Nancy Pollard, his maid, Miss Withers, his nurse, and Rufus Jones, his handyman.
Forget the raise.
Oh, Mr. Starkweather, I had no idea.
The rest of the money is to be equally divided among his surviving relatives. They are his grandson, Simon III, his great-niece, Paula Thompson, and his niece, Fiona Starkweather, and her son, Jordan, who will share 1/3.
Isn't that nice?
I always knew you'd do us right, Uncle.
Now, Uncle, I knew you were mad at Mama for marrying Southern boy, but you two must have agreed on one thing. Blood is sure thicker than water.
I bet Miss Withers could tell you if it is.
Now that I've informed you of the will's contents, I have another announcement to make. As of tomorrow, this will becomes invalid.
What does invalid mean?
It means no good.
I got me a brother that's invalid.
What Mr. Van Zandt means to say is that we're not going to get our money, you fool.
Oh, I guess I won't be buying that big screen TV I was thinking about after all.
Sit. You two listen.
Why did you decide to disinherit something?
Better use for my money, that's why. Oh, don't worry, I didn't cut you out entirely. All of you in the old will get around $50,000.
50,000 out of 50 billion?
Well, Louis advised me it would be a good idea to give you a little something in order to keep you from contesting my new will.
New will?
Yes, that's why I asked Kathy to spend these few nights this weekend here at Starkweather Mansion to type it up nice and legal for my signature.
Mr. Davis is a detective. What'd you hire him to do?
Mr. Starkweather hired me to conduct an investigation on the quiet. For the past 6 months, I've traveled to a dozen or more foreign countries, checking out some of the world's greatest scientists. Some well-known, others who prefer to keep their experiments hush-hush. I succeeded in finding one in Belgium. Let's call him Dr. X. He can help Mr. Starkweather do what he most desires, which is clone himself.
I don't understand.
Good, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Those wooden skins now, please, you have me prepared. The ones you said would be examined by specialists.
They were sent to specialists, Withers, specialists in DNA.
I thought you were trying to find a cure.
It was not for my various ailments, but a cure for dying. I found it.
Cloning?
Precisely. Through the wonders of modern science, I shall live forever.
It's not right.
But it's neither here nor there. Let the moralists and politicians debate that question for centuries or decades to come. Meanwhile, Dr. X, as Davis named him, will be creating a brand new me. Sit down, Withers. The lot of you seem to be displeased, not, I suspect, because of the moral question involved, but because of your loss in inheritance. Too bad. Cloning is very expensive, especially since the process I require must be done in absolute secrecy. Oh, but there will still be a sizable fortune left for the new me to inherit. I will most likely be the first person to ever become his own heir. Withers, my blood pressure.
Yes, Mr. Starkweather. If you'll excuse me, I need to take Mr. Starkweather's blood pressure.
And why don't you take it right here?
Mr. Starkweather's arms are too frail for me to get a reading from them. I have an outsized cuff made to go around the patient's thigh. I can stand the pressure from the inflated cuff better there. Mr. Starkweather has had enough excitement for one evening. I shall put him to bed.
I guess our meeting is concluded, unless anyone else has any questions.
I knew. What the heck was that all about?
It's simple, Rufus. Great Uncle Simon was all going to leave us a fortune. Instead, he decided to clone himself.
What does clone mean?
It means to take some cells from a person's body and create a duplicate of the original.
Think you can do that? That's great. When the old Mr. Starkweather passes away, I'll see if I can get a job working for the new Mr. Starkweather.
The new Mr. Starkweather will have to be born and grow up. It goes against the law of nature.
How? It has all been arranged. Once Dr. X has performed the new life, the cells will be implanted in a host mother who will carry the child to term.
A host mother? Who? Me. You? Why not? I'm young and healthy. I'll make a good mother for little Simon.
How can you ever be considered part of this travesty?
I'll be well compensated. Besides, have you known anyone else give birth to a baby billionaire? Uncle Simon is giving his money to a baby?
In a manner of speaking, yes. The new will places Mr. Starkweather's fortune into a trust fund, which I'll administer. I'll release the money to pay Dr. X and his staff for performing the cloning procedure. After that, ample funds will be provided for Kathy's needs and the child's upbringing and education. Once he is grown and properly trained to deal with high finance, the money will be turned over to him.
The kid will look, think, and act like Simon Starkweather. He could conceivably parlay those billions into trillions by the time he's an old man.
But for what purpose? So we'll give it to another clone, then another? When will it end? When there's a Simon Starkweather with enough money and power to rule the world?
We didn't discuss it, but you may well be right.
Can't believe you condone such madness.
Oh, I can see why he would. Mr. Van Zandt and Paula will look like billionaires themselves off Mr. Starkweather's money. Money that should have gone to us and his family. I guess you'll get rich too, since you're a part of this scheme.
Not me. I did the job I was paid to do. Once I take my very generous check, I'm out of here. Frankly, I don't care if the boss's science fiction experiment works or not.
You should be ashamed. You should all be ashamed.
I believe you've made your feelings quite clear, ladies. Now, if you'll excuse us, I'd like to speak to you in the kitchen. We'll clear after you've finished. I trust your ring if you require anything else.
It might be kind of nice to hear the
I will retire to the study. You may as well begin typing up the new will tonight. I'll direct you how to put everything into proper legal terms.
Sure, Louis. The sooner it's finished and signed, the better. Hey, wait a minute. How come nobody asked me if I want to be the host mother?
You're Mr. Starkweather's blood, Kid Paula. It wouldn't be proper.
Proper? You're about to conduct an experiment that makes Frankenstein look like an amateur, and you're right about being proper?
Cool it, kid, before you burst a blood vessel. Mr. Starkweather's made up his mind, and I've got a feeling whatever the old man wants, he gets.
Succinctly put, Mr. Davis. Kathy?
I'm going up the stairs to pack. Once I witness the signing of the new will, I'm out of here. Good night.
We were robbed!
We were?
Yes! Predictably Simon did a fortune in front of our noses and snatched it away.
That was mean.
Mean? The man's a monster. You saw the evil glint in his eyes. He enjoyed ripping the rug right out from under our feet.
Well, at least he's leaving us 50,000.
To him, that's the word costing a dime to the billionaires. And you heard him. That's just to keep us from breaking his blue will.
Yeah.
I wish he was dead. I wish the old goat would drop dead tonight.
It would serve him right. If Uncle Simon did die tonight, then we'd all get our money. Wouldn't we, my dears? Would anyone care for him a fridge?
A penny for your thoughts? That's all I can afford. Now.
Mr. Starkweather,
It's Jordan, remember? At least when that dragging lady Minerva isn't around.
I thought everyone had gone to bed.
I was going to call tonight, but then I got nerved for a midnight snack.
Oh, I'll fix you something.
Never mind. What are you doing up?
I just came in to make sure the fire screen was closed, so no sparks will pop out onto the rug.
In burned down Starkweather Mansion. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing.
How could you say such a thing? You know Mr. Starkweather's an invalid. How could he...
You read my mind.
Jordan!
Ah, thought you'd call me by my first name.
You shouldn't even suggest such a thing. It's wicked.
Why should it surprise you? Everyone knows I'm the black sheep in the family. If it happened tonight, you'd have a million, and I'd have billions. Think of the good time we could have together.
Don't.
It's a tempting thought. Admit it.
It's not. It's a horrible idea.
What? The part about the money? Or me and you? Together?
The part about the money.
What about us?
Minerva!
Nancy! I thought you were going to help me with the dishes.
I was just making sure the doors were locked.
I see. And what are you doing in here?
I came down for a little snack when I saw Nancy, so I stopped for a little chat.
That appetite of yours is going to get you into trouble one of these days.
Minerva, what are you doing with that knife?
Mincing onions.
At midnight?
I can't stand to have anyone see me cry. I thought I heard someone in here, so I came in to check. If you're hungry, come with me. I'll find you something.
Yes, Minerva. Whatever you say, Minerva.
Finish checking and then come give me a hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Rufus, I thought I heard someone come in.
It was just me.
So I see. Good grief, man, what are you doing with that axe?
It's like this. I remember I was chopping wood this afternoon for a fire before it started raining. And I forgot to put the axe back in the shed. I've been dismembering things lately. But when it came to me where I left it, I figured I'd better go get it and dry it off so it don't rust.
That is fine, but why did you bring it into the living room? Besides, Rufus, how many times have I told you servants always enter through the back door?
I don't know, I ain't counting.
Go to the kitchen and ask Mrs. Trent for a towel.
But I ain't wet. It quit raining.
I know that. To dry the axe.
Oh, yeah.
The back door! If that man had a brain, he'd be dangerous.
I hear that!
A penny for your thoughts.
Jordan, I just came down for a breath of fresh air. What are you doing up this late?
Munchies. Want a cookie?
No thanks.
So did you and Mr. Van Zandt finish the new well?
Yes, it's all ready. Except for Mr. Starkweather's signature. I see you've calmed down. When Blake hated me.
Hate you? Why would I hate you? I'd make the same decision if I were in your shoes.
I'm sure you would, Jordan.
Minerva was right. Being the mother of little Simon will be the next best thing to having the billions yourself. But aren't you forgetting something?
What?
The little type will need a father. Someone to shape and mold him into the perfect replica of great Uncle Simon. A heartless, money-making machine.
You think so?
I know so. And who'd be a better father figure than I? You're a very attractive woman, Kathy.
Take your crummy hands off me.
What?
You're getting cookie crumbs on my blouse. And by the way, forget it. If I decide little Simon needs a father after he's born, I'll pick a suitable husband then. I don't know who he'll be, but he won't be a sleazy, money-hungry slimeball like you, Jordan. I wouldn't try to marry you, not with the detective in the house. Ha!
Finished in here yet?
I need to make everything all right.
Well, hurry up. Minerva wants you in the kitchen.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't dawdle. These doors are so drafty. Miss Thompson?
Oh, Miss Tran! Gave me a fright!
I guess I should be grateful you didn't shoot me. What on earth are you roaming around in the middle of the night with that gun?
Don't worry, I know how to handle a gun. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd clean it. I was going to the kitchen to look for some oil.
I doubt you find what you need unless you want to run with Crisco. What are you doing with that thing?
My dad taught me how to be a crab shot when I was 10. A girl can never be too careful.
I'll doubt you have anything to worry about near Starkweather Mansion. It's miles from the nearest town. No one ever comes up this way.
You mean you've never had a burglary or a parlor?
No.
It's a wonder, with Great Uncle Simon in his condition and all. Someone could break right in these French doors and do who knows what to him.
Like shoot him?
As a horrible thought it is, it could happen. And his defense, how could he make himself?
He can sick nurse with his on. That should frighten away any intruders.
Oh, you're just awful. But you know what? I would not want to tangle with that one. Where does she sleep?
In the parlor.
Let's see if I remember. Mama brought me here once when I was a little girl. The room back there is the library. The one beyond is the parlor. Am I right?
Yes, when Mr. Starkweather became too ill to go up and down the steps, we converted the library into a bedroom, and Withers took the parlor.
And they're the only ones that sleep downstairs.
Yes, the servants' quarters are upstairs in the attic under the eaves. There's a staircase that leads up from the kitchen. Why do you ask?
Oh, just curious.
Excuse me a moment. I suggested to Mr. St. John that little section of dialogue was kind of awkward and suggested that he cut it. But he felt you needed to get an idea of the layout of the house. He said, what do you want me to do? Put a blueprint of Starkweather Mansion in the program? Which I thought was kind of rude. He insisted I leave it in, but I wanted you to know it's a bad piece of writing, and I tried to correct it. That's all.
I want you to know that if you interrupt one more time, you're gonna have to bring that script up on the stage and play Mrs. Trent yourself.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that was great. I wish I had your nerve. Now, where were we?
You're curious about the layout of the house?
Oh, yes, just curious.
You know what they say, curiosity kills the cat.
Yes, well, if you'll excuse me.
Wouldn't it be ironic? Someone did break in tonight. All nights and...
in Mr. Starkweather's bedroom was a little loose. I thought I'd give it an extra turn or two.
How mechanical of you. We wouldn't want any of that gas to escape into his room now, would we?
Naturally not. But first things first, shall we?
I feel like a pigeon pecking popcorn.
You missed one there.
Where?
Beside your left kneecap. Left kneecap.
Got it. They rolled just everywhere.
Round objects tend to do that, madam.
Miss Withers! Oh, Mrs. Starkweather. What are you doing on the floor of Bensonhurst?
Picking up spilled pills. Please watch where you put your feet, my dear. Both of them.
I assume Mr. Starkweather has required an injection. Is there a problem?
Nothing I can tell. His lungs seem to be somewhat congested, so I took him from his bed and sat him in his wheelchair. He can breathe easier in an upright position. Then I gave him an injection of steroids to help open his bronchial passages.
My. Where would Uncle Simon be without you?
Dead. Without my help, his heart would have stopped beating long ago.
Speaking of which, wasn't there something you wanted to ask Miss Withers about?
Was there?
Did you tell us?
Oh, yes! Miss Withers, I was wondering if you happen to have any manufactured samples of digitalis you don't need. I have a heart condition and like to keep a supply handy.
I can see why you would. Yours tend to run out, don't they? I'm sorry, Mrs. Starkweather, but I'm fresh out of spare drugs. Your uncle requires every pill he's got to keep him going.
Oh my, then we'd better gather up all of mine. Will you help us, my dear?
I suppose.
Is this a private game or can anybody play?
Mr. Davis, we're picking up spilled pills.
Is that... I thought you were having a tiny little marble tournament. In that case, I'll pass.
Let me give you these, Mrs. Starkweather. I really must return to my duties.
And here are mine.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
If you'll excuse me.
Miss Withers, how's the boss?
Bossy. He sent me for a pitcher of fresh drinking water. If I'm not back in a minute, he'll start reading that handbill for me. See what I mean? I'll be right there, Mr. Starkweather.
I gather he rings for you a lot.
Incessantly. When he stops ringing the bell, I'll know he's kicked the bucket. If you'll excuse me.
Spoken like a true member of the medical profession. What's with the wrench, Bensonhurst? Got something I can give you a hand with?
Thank you, sir, but it will wait. I too shall excuse myself.
Well,
What are you doing up so late, Mrs. Starkweather?
I couldn't sleep. What about you, Mr. Davis?
Oh, I'm a real night owl myself. Plus, I was hoping young Simon Starkweather would show up. I haven't met him yet.
Oh, Simon's a sweet boy. I do hope he's all right. With the storm and all.
He may have pulled over to let it pass. Yeah, it's starting to cloud over again. We could be in for another deluge.
I hope not. I believe I'll go back to my room and lie down.
Good night again, Mrs. Starkweather.
Good night.
I'm coming, Mr. Starkweather. Oh, you're still here.
Just keeping an eye on things.
I see. Well, my patient.
You're up too, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. It seems as though there's more traffic going through Starkweather Mansion at midnight than goes down the interstate at rush hour.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been hearing footsteps go past the study all evening. I'm not surprised, though. We could have guessed that Mr. Starkweather's announcement would give the heirs a sleepless night or two.
Between us, Mr. Van Zandt, this whole cloning business, how do you feel about it?
I'm a lawyer, Mr. Davis. I'm paid to think, not to feel. Can Mr. Starkweather be cloned? Definitely. There's no question that the technology exists. Should Mr. Starkweather be cloned? Let's just say, I wouldn't want to be the first to challenge nature by creating another Lois van Zandt.
Me too. I'm a simple guy. The sooner we can get this will signed and I can get back to the real world, the better.
The new will is finished. Mr. Starkweather can sign it first thing in the morning.
The old boy's still awake. His nurse was in here a minute ago and I heard him ringing his bell for her.
In that case, there's no reason he can't sign it now.
That's what I'm thinking. The people in this house are as tense as a bunch of long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs. I know I'll feel better once the boss's plan is a done deal.
I'll go up to the study and get the new will. Why don't you let Mr. Starkweather know? What in the world?
The circuit breaker must have tripped.
But the storm passed hours ago.
I know. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. I'll have Bensonhurst show me the way to the main breaker.
Good. I'll let Mr. Starkweather know we're taking care of it.
Tools of the trade.
It's all right, Mr. Starkweather. Mr. Starkweather?
Hello? Is anybody in here? Mrs. Trent? Bensonhurst? Anybody?
Kathy, I think there's something wrong with Mr. Starkweather. And I don't know where that nurse is.
Oh no, he hasn't signed the will yet, has he?
No. Perhaps he just fainted. We need light. Mr. Davis is trying to... Ah! Mr. Starkweather!
What happened? Someone struck me.
It's Mr. Starkweather. Help him.
I heard a scream.
He's dead. Someone put the blood pressure cuff around his neck and pumped it up to the maximum. 300 millimeters of mercury. Mr. Starkweather has been strangled to death.
But who could do such a thing?
Give me a break, woman! I'd say you and everyone else in this room are on the top 10 list! Now, let me check the body.
Those drops on his robe. Is it blood?
I don't know.
What else could it be?
I can't be sure. I'm the detective. I'll handle it. Miss Withers, what can you tell us?
After I brought Mr. Starkweather the pitcher of water and made sure he was breathing all right, I went to my room and lay down across my bed. A few minutes later, the lights went out.
I noticed that too.
Hushed. Mr. Starkweather started ringing his bell. I was lighting a candle when someone struck me with a heavy object. I must have blacked out. When I came to, the lights were
We
on.
can take it from there.
You seem to be in charge, Mr. Davis. What do we do now?
We keep trying the phones until we can get through to the police. If by morning we still can't, someone will have to drive into town and report that there's been a murder at Starkweather Mansion.
Murder?
Maybe the old man did himself in. Or maybe not. Young Mr. Simon, you made it. Boy, we got a surprise for you.
Wasn't that the most diabolical murder you ever saw? Now, remember, first thing during intermission, to vote on which character you think is the murderer, and then get a snack. See you in 15 minutes. To the culprit's identity. I just wanted to let you know so you can continue to play armchair detective and try to guess who the murderer is. Well, that's all. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the exciting conclusion of Murders in the Air.
Dead. I can't believe grandfather's dead.
Well, he is, Captain Sam. He's the deadest person I ever saw. Funny you should say that. Bensonhurst and I were discussing the degrees of death earlier and...
Mother, please.
And he was murdered.
There's no doubt about that. You saw the body.
Poor grandfather. If I had gotten here sooner...
How do we know you didn't get here sooner?
What?
For all we know, you could have arrived hours ago, parked your car out of sight, slipped inside, killed the lights, moments before you killed Simon Starkweather.
That's ridiculous. Why would I kill him?
I'd say a third of a $50 billion fortune is a good enough reason to knock somebody off.
I didn't even know about that new will. I didn't know about that crazy cloning scheme that grandfather told you about.
It would have been easy enough to eavesdrop outside those French doors and hear everything.
Why would I hide? I was expected here. I told you what happened.
Tell me again.
All right. I had to creep at a snail's pace along that long country road from town. Rain flashing the windshield so hard that I could barely see. Then when I came to that wooden bridge that spans the stream that runs around the estate, I had to stop. The wind had ripped the bridge to pieces, and the stream had turned into a raging river, and I was unable to cross the bridge. Fortunately, I remembered that about a mile down from there, a tree had fallen across the stream years ago. I used to play on it when I was a kid. I managed to find the tree and walk across the trunk, even though the rising water almost covered it. Apparently, I got here just after grandfather was murdered.
That's a good story, but it sounds rehearsed.
Not nearly enough. It's the truth. I swear it.
Maybe, but I'm still not crossing you off my suspects list.
And just who else do you have on that list, Mr. Davis?
Everyone in the house except Mr. Van Zandt and Miss Collins. They had a heck of a lot to gain if your grandfather had lived only a few moments more. As it turns out, they're left out in the cold.
Especially me. Louis has other clients. Now I'm among the unemployed.
I'm sure once the estate is settled, we can arrange for you to be given a generous severance check.
Take it out of your portion if you like. Mother and I will pass.
So will I. Nothing personal, of course. Of course.
Mr. Davis, what do we do now?
Simon's story reminded me. We could play some bridge.
The way I see it, we sit tight until daybreak, and then you'll show me the way to your car. You'll drive me into town. I'll report what I know to the police. Once a homicide detective is assigned to the case, I'm sure they'll have to fly in by helicopter to collect Simon Starkweather to get him to the coroner's office as soon as possible. Once a homicide detective is assigned to the case, I'm out of here.
Wait. You're a detective too, and you were right here when the murder occurred. You have a better chance of solving this case than anybody else.
Sorry, but now that your grandfather's dead, I'm off the payroll. Once I give the big boys my statement, I'm out of here.
But I'll hire you to stay. I won't be able to pay you until I get my portion of the inheritance, but if you're willing to wait...
You're on, kid. And incidentally, that offer drops me right to the bottom of my suspects list. Well, I might as well start earning my salary.
How can we help, Mr. Davis?
First, I need to find out where everyone was during the murder.
Establish everyone's alibis?
Yeah. I also need to know anything the staff might have seen or heard during that time that might help us.
Clues.
You got it. Clues, alibis, motives. That's what a detective has to work with. In this case, the motives are obvious. The other elements, however, aren't yet, but hopefully will be when I'm done.
That sounds like a good plan to me. Whom do you want to start with, Mr. Davis?
Miss Thompson, do you mind going first?
Well, I'm often tired, but if I have to...
You don't have to. Let's do it.
What do you mean, dear?
Mr. Davis isn't a police officer. We don't have to tell him the time of day.
You may be right, Jordan, but why would you refuse to cooperate unless you were hiding something?
Now don't start accusing me of murder unless you can prove it.
Simon's right. Do you want me to tell the police that everyone cooperated except you?
Fine. I'll answer your stupid questions. But first, I'm going to take Mother upstairs. She's getting up in age and needs her rest.
Why, thank you very much, Jordan. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I'm certainly not Mrs. Methuselah either.
Are you alright? Do you need your digitalis?
No, but if I did, there's probably a pill or two under the sofa. I had a little accident with my pillow.
Come on. You can call when you're ready for us.
I assume you want to question everyone in private. You can work with me in the study if you'd like, Kathy. I want to read over the old will since it remain the official one.
Sure, Louis. Excuse us.
I'd like to stay. Since I wasn't here at the time that the murder occurred, hearing everyone's statements may give me a clear picture of what happened tonight here at Starkweather Mansion.
You're the boss now. I'm particularly interested in what happened between the time Mr. Starkweather announced that he was changing his will and the time he was murdered.
Now, how long was that?
Several hours. Well, Miss Thompson, did you observe anything in that time frame that might help us?
Wait, I was greatly disappointed with Great Uncle Simon's announcement, as you might well imagine. I mean, I can see why someone might want to lump shame and hate him. But honestly, Cousin Simon, your grandfather was not a very nice person. Anyway, I spent most of my time in my room, but I think I'm downstairs for on a little errand. I was outside the kitchen letting her Nancy and nervous.
What's the matter with you, girl? Did you leave your mind in the other room? You haven't heard a word I said.
I'm sorry. I'm just so confused.
About what? Has that no-good scamp Jordan been bothering you?
Jordan? I mean, Mr. Starkweather? What makes you think that?
When I walked in on the two of you in the living room, you were standing mighty close together. Real lovey-dovey like. What was he saying to you?
I think he wanted me to...
To do something you didn't want to do?
Yes, but it's not what you're thinking.
I'll bet he'd better stay away from you. If that boy tries anything, I'll cut him down to size.
Minerva, no! He's not interested in me. I heard him with Miss Collins.
Ha! I get the picture. When you lost your million, he lost interest in you, didn't he? He's following the money right down to New Collins, girl, isn't he?
Maybe he's ready to settle down. If Mr. Starkweather hadn't changed his will, Jordan would be free to...
Free to do what?
Never mind. If we're done, I'd like to be excused.
Go on. Nancy?
Yes, ma'am?
Lock your door.
Excuse me, that little scene in the foyer was a flashback. It showed a conversation Paula overheard before the murder. Isn't that clever? Just want to make sure you got that. The other character stories, well, portions of them will be shown in the flashback too. That's all.
That man's really asking for it.
So tell me, Mrs. Trent, did you observe anything suspicious that happened tonight before Mr. Starkweather was murdered?
Suspicious? I suppose you call toting a gun around suspicious, even though Mr. Starkweather wasn't shot.
Wait, a gun? Whose gun?
Besides me.
Paula Thompson, that's who. Claims she's a regular Annie Oakley, and she mentioned how easy it would be for someone to come through those French doors to kill someone.
Did she?
Ask for yourself.
Anything else?
I did happen to hear a rather odd conversation between Rufus and Mrs. Starkweather. I had gone upstairs to distribute candles and his little power bank, which came in handy when I saw Rufus and Mrs. Starkweather talking.
Do I have enough? Oh dear.
Miss Starkweather?
Good heavens, Rufus, you scared me out of a year's growth.
That's okay, ma'am. At our age, we do most of our own sideways, don't we?
I certainly hope not. What are you doing with that TV? Doesn't look like a portable.
It is now. I'm borrowing it from one of the guests who's ain't used.
Whatever for?
I ain't sleepy, so I figured I'd watch some TV. But the set of my room's all messed up. I mean the color. Everybody on every daggone channel's green. Phil's green, Willie's green, even Uncle Si's green. Looks like every station's starting Kermit the Frog.
How disconcerting.
You can say that again, whatever that means. Are them breath mints you got there? I wouldn't mind a few of those. I can still taste the sauerkraut when they're served stacked for supper.
Oh no, Rufus, you mustn't eat any of these. They're for my heart. If you ate any of these, they could kill you.
I'll pass them. You better be careful with them not to leave any of them lying around. If somebody could eat a bunch of them, they could kill over dead.
That's entirely possible.
What would they put on their death certificate? Cause of death, bad breath.
It isn't a laughing matter. I'll be careful with them. I need them, you see? I need every last one of them.
So, Bensonhurst, we've been told that Rufus had an axe in the house.
Yes, I had instructed him to chop some firewood earlier.
I'm surprised you trust him with an axe.
Personally, I wouldn't trust him with a butter knife. I was simply relaying Mr. Starkweather's instructions.
Was there anything else of interest that you happened to notice?
Just one, sir. Earlier tonight, I was coming from the kitchen when I saw Master Jordan at the door to Mr. Starkweather's room. The hall door, not that one. His behavior seemed somewhat furtive. I got the impression he was about to enter when the door opened and Miss Withers came out. It was apparent that her presence startled Master Jordan.
Well, what do you want?
I was going in to check on Predictably Simon.
No need. That's what I'm here to do.
How is he?
Still breathing if that's what you're wondering about.
But how much time do you think he has left?
Let's just say he didn't start reading any long novels, or even a short story.
But do you think he'll make it through the night?
I think Mr. Starkweather will keep his heart beating with a sheer determination long enough to sign that new will. That is what you wondered about, isn't it?
Why, you misjudged me, Withers.
Give it a rest, Jordan. You'd love to see him drop dead before daybreak just like nearly everyone else in this house.
Including you. $1 million is a lot. Most people would kill for that much.
If that's a hint, forget it. As Mr. Starkweather's nurse, I'd be the prime suspect if his death appeared to be anything but by natural causes.
Suspecting and proving are two very different things.
I'm going to forget you said that. Good night, Jordan. It's true. Jordan Starkweather did hint that I was in a position to end his great-uncle's life in a way that would appear natural. I assume Bensonhurst also told you that I refused?
He did, but you could have changed your mind.
And then killed him with a blood pressure cuff? That would have been foolish. Hardly what you call by natural causes.
I agree. The manner by which he was murdered makes no sense at all to whoever did it.
It's as if the killer was flaunting the deed in our faces.
Why would they do that?
That's a good question, Miss Withers. Tell me, if you had to pick a likely suspect to be the killer, who would it be?
Off the record, that Thompson girl, his great-niece, is too goody-goody for my tastes. Oh, those Southern girls can pour on the charm when they want to, but Scarlett O'Hara is pretty ruthless when you get down to it.
Well, we have been told that Cousin Paula has a gun.
See what I mean? I dare say she and Jordan both were desperate to get their hands on Mr. Starkweather's billions. I overheard them talking earlier this evening. It was shortly after Mr. Van Zandt's announcement about the new will. They didn't notice me in the corridor.
Well, what are we gonna do?
Do? What can we do? It's out of our hands.
Don't be such a whip, cousin. That money rightfully belongs to us. There's gotta be a way to get it.
Maybe we could break the new will by getting Great Uncle Simon declared insane.
I thought of that, but it won't work. If London was just a wild theory, then maybe. But it isn't. It's been done for years. His plan to give the first person to kill himself might be bizarre, but it's insane. The case.
And the Pins were going to inherit on the lawyers.
Yeah, they got Mr. Van Zandt.
What is it? What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking, if you can't beat them, join them.
Huh?
Never mind, fend for yourself, Jordan. I need to go find that log.
If you can't beat them, that's it. Now where could Cat be?
romantic proposal. More like a business proposition.
I see. You were going to have access to billions. What did he have to offer you in return?
Himself, I guess. In my opinion, that fortune hunter wouldn't be worth 2 cents.
Then you did turn him down.
Jordan is attractive, in a smart sort of way. But any woman who married him would be a fool. Believe me, Mike, I'm no fool.
I've known that from the time we started working together.
Well, in the end, you were smart enough to volunteer to carry grandfather's clone.
Look, Simon, once Mr. Starkweather made up his mind to clone himself, nothing was going to change it. He would have found a surrogate mother somewhere, so it might as well have been.
I agree. I understand. I just think the whole idea was creepy.
You're a lot nicer about it than the other heirs were.
For example,
Paula, for one. She hadn't given up hope on getting her hands on Mr. Starkweather's money.
how do you know?
I was in the study with Lois when Paula knocked at the door. She asked Lois to step out into the corridor where she could speak to him in private. He went out with her. He didn't close the door completely, so I couldn't help but overhear their conversation.
We're very busy, Miss Thompson.
Apparently, well.
Yes.
Mr. Van Zandt, you're a lawyer. Are you sure that this cloning process is legal? You police are licensed to practice it.
The process is performed in Belgium, as we told you. Our laws don't apply there.
And what about ethics? Have the laws been disbarred before for unethical, if not illegal?
What is your point?
My friends, I'll in on the deal. You can pay me from that trust fund, and you can be a nanny or whatever. I don't care what you make in position. If you refuse, I shall be forced to report you to the Bar Association. Isn't that what you call it?
It is. Let me give you a little free legal advice, Miss Thompson. In the first place, if you make any accusations against me before the cloning procedure is completed successfully, I'll sue you the $50,000 you're due to receive and everything else you own, and I'll get it. In the second place, once the baby is on its way, I plan to close down my office. I should devote all my time to Kathy and little Simon's care. You don't have to be a lawyer to administer an estate. Anyone can do it. So you see, young woman, your threats are meaningless. In fact, as an officer of the court, I should report your feeble attempts at extortion to the police. Take your silly insolent self out of my sight, and I might be willing to forget it.
All right, I'll go, you bar.
Excuse me. Yes, Mrs. Trent? I found what's left of the candles in the server. I suggest you take what you keep from that just nearby.
Thank you. That was very thoughtful of you. Kathy's in the study. I'll take one for her as well.
Miss Thompson?
Fine, I'll take one. I'm going to my room. There's something there I need to get.
What's the matter with her?
Let's just say she's a poor loser. Miss Thompson played her ace, and I trumped it, in a manner of speaking. I'll give this to Kathy.
If I remember correctly, when Kathy Collins saw Mr. Starkweather's body and screamed, you came running in the front door. What had you been doing outside, Rufus?
Was I outside? Yep, sure was. I remember now. I was getting a TV set from one of the guest rooms.
Yeah, we heard why, Rufus.
You did? New short travels fast around here.
All the actors on your set were green, right?
It sure was. Looked like the Martians landing or something. But when I plugged in the news set, the picture didn't come out too clear. Everybody was fuzzy. As fuzzy as a woolly worm. I was about ready to go outside and turn the dish around.
On the roof?
Well, it wouldn't do much good in the basement, would it? I was about to get the tall ladder out of the storage shed when I heard that guy holler bloody murder. Murder, even if it wasn't bloody.
Did you see or hear anything else outside?
I saw an owl and heard a bunch of bullfrogs.
Meant humans?
I saw Mr. Jordan on the patio. I don't know what he was doing out there.
Earlier tonight, Rufus, did you hear anyone talking about the new will?
Who didn't? Whenever no Bensoners didn't talk about much else. They was going on about in the kitchen before Mr. Starkweather crowed.
What were they saying?
How it ain't fair they worked hard for the millions. Me, I figured $50,000 would get me a new TV with a real big screen. I might even get me two.
Bensonhurst and Minerva.
Oh, yeah, them. The more Minerva thought about it, the madder she got. And whoo, does that woman got a temper. She was about ready to storm in there.
You mustn't go in there, Minerva.
Who's going to stop me?
I shall if necessary.
You and whose army?
I completely agree that we were wronged, but a confrontation is not the answer.
Oh yeah? Then what is?
Be patient. Mr. Starkweather hasn't signed the new will yet. Perhaps he'll change his mind in the morning.
We should live so long?
No, Minerva. He should live so long.
So, what were you doing outside at the time of the murder, Mrs. Starkweather?
Getting a breath of fresh air. Anything wrong with that?
Not if you remained outside.
What do you mean?
When I made a cursory examination of the crime scene, I noticed that Miss Withers left the window raised just a couple of inches to let in some of that fresh air. Anyone could have slipped in and killed her.
Don't start accusing me of murder unless you can prove it.
Sit down, Mr. Starkweather. I'm not accusing you of anything. Yet.
Anyways, Cousin Jordan, conning someone else into doing your bidding sounds more like your style.
Who told you that?
I'll ask the questions here if you don't mind. Now, I'll repeat. What were you doing outside?
If you must know, Kathy and I had a disagreement. I blew up, so I went outside to get a breath of fresh air. Anything wrong with that?
I question, you answer, remember? Now, tell me, if you didn't murder him, who did it?
I'm not saying she did it, but have you tried questioning that little maid, Nancy?
Why her, Cousin Jordan?
Look, the girl has a crush on me. I flirt with ladies a lot, but I did nothing to lead her on. She was disappointed about the new will, that she would lose money, but that I would lose even more. I strode around the house for a little while and stopped outside the kitchen. That's when I heard her and Miss Withers talking.
Can I do something for you, Miss Withers?
I needed fresh water to put by Mr. Starkweather's bedside. I got it.
That poor man, when he had his attack in the living room and lost his breath, I realized what you meant when you said the slightest shock proved to be fatal.
Exactly.
The slightest shock. Miss Belle.
I must go.
Yes. We wouldn't want anything to happen to him. Now, would we? I was shocked when I heard that Mr. Starkweather had included me as well. I didn't think he even noticed me.
Then you must have received two surprises. To hear that you'd inherited $1 million, and then immediately find that it was being taken away.
Actually, 3. Now you're wealthy again.
Oh, Mr. Simon, I was thrilled to hear that your grandfather was leaving me money. With that, I could go to college and get a good education like you.
Well, now you can do anything you want, Nancy. What are you going to do?
I don't know. I haven't been thinking of myself much lately.
Who has been on your mind, Nancy?
I
Jordan Starkweather, perhaps. You're very fond of him, aren't you?
Who told you that? Cousin Jordan himself, for one. He implied that you might have even been willing to kill for him.
He what? How could he say such a thing?
I'm sorry to hurt you, Nancy, but now you see what he's really like. He's out for himself and he'll smash anyone who gets in his way.
I guess I knew that. Minerva tried to warn me. I even heard him talking with Miss Owens. He proposed to her, but she turned him down, and then later laughed about it when she told her friend, Mr. Van Zandt. I was taking towels to the guest rooms when I heard them talking. You think Jordan is cold-hearted, but Miss Collins is just as bad as he is. Can you believe it? Those soulful gazes might work on some innocent young thing like that man Nancy. But you've been quick enough that I'm no pushover.
I wish I had been there to see it. It's time Jordan met his
Match. I could tell Nancy about some of the other maids that worked here before her. Jordan's playboy days will be over soon enough, though.
What do you mean?
Up until now, Mr. Starkweather has given Jordan, as well as Fiona, Paula, and young Simon, a generous allowance. Once he passes on, the $50,000 bequest will be the last they get of the Starkweather fortune. You'll have to learn what it's like to work for a living.
Simon's almost out of school. He'll do fine. But the others, they'll go through their money in no time. Then what kind of jobs can they get? Can you picture Paula behind the desk of a car rental agency?
Or Jordan driving out cars to the lots for customers.
And what will Fiona do? Sell Avon?
Can I get something for you, Cousin Fiona? Maybe a glass of water?
No, dear, I'm fine. Mr. Davis, I want you to know that Jordan couldn't have done, oh dear, what was done to Uncle Simon. He was with me in my room all evening.
Now, Mrs. Starkweather, you know that can't be true. Jordan told us himself that he was outside, and I saw you in here earlier with Bensonhurst and Miss Withers.
Oh, that's right. Maybe that was last night he sat with me.
Maybe it was.
Now I know why Detective Fletcher never believed the suspects on Murder, She Wrote. It's so easy to get confused.
Concentrate on tonight, Mrs. Starkweather. Do you remember seeing anything suspicious?
Suspicious? Well, I'd call seeing that terrible thing around Uncle Simon's neck suspicious.
Night means before that, Cousin Fiona.
Before that, well, I'm not sure if this is the sort of thing you mean.
Yes.
But it was right after we had been told about the new will and had all gone upstairs. I was walking past the secretary's door when I heard her and the housekeeper inside. They were talking quite loudly, so I couldn't help but overhear.
Making sure there are extra blankets used to the guest room. I suppose you should be very pleased with yourself, Miss Collins.
Why do you say that?
It all worked out just as you planned.
I don't know what you mean.
I think you do. I understand now why you brought all those magazines in from town and left them lying where Mr. Starkweather could see them. You've done this for months.
What magazines?
Don't play dumb, Miss Collins. Those news magazines and scientific journals, I've seen them all. They all had one thing in common. Articles about cloning. I didn't realize until now, though, you planned the idea Mr. Starkweather said to clone himself.
What if I did? There's no laws against sharing ideas, are there?
No, and I'm sure your lawyer friend would agree with you, since you're in this together. That doesn't mean it's right. I think what you're planning to do is hideous.
To be perfectly frank, I don't care less what you think. Get out!
Starting to give orders, are you? Well, just remember one thing, young lady. You aren't the queen bee yet, and you won't be until Mr. Starkweather's name is on the dotted line, assuming that ever happens.
Kathy told me about Mrs. Trent's accusations. that she engineered the hunting business, possibly with my help. Apparently, Mrs. Starkweather reported their conversation accurately, which is something I was surprised.
Well, is it true? Did you and Kathy Collins plant the idea in his head to clone himself?
I don't really think that's relevant to the case at hand, Simon. Even if we did, we're breaking any laws. Don't you agree, Mr. Davis?
No laws that I can think of.
Then we should focus on the law that was broken. I'm referring to murder, of course.
You're right as usual, Mr. Van Zandt. Now, can you volunteer any information that might help us?
I'll tell you this. Earlier this evening, I was going to the kitchen to ask Minerva for a pot of coffee. It was apparent that Kathy and I would be working late. When I got there, Minerva wasn't there, but Rufus was. He was talking to Fiona Starkweather. Their conversation was very peculiar.
Good heavens, Rufus, what are you doing with that axe?
I brought it inside from the wood pile, dried off and sharpened it. You want to see?
Heavens no! Put it away.
Maybe I should before it hurts someone, or even kills them.
That's a horrible thought.
Ain't it though? I get those sometimes. Do you?
I
see you still got your poison pills.
Digitalis isn't a poison. It's a stimulant. You just have to be careful not to take too many.
There was a lot less in that bottle the last time I saw you. I don't hope you haven't got an overdose. I think I can figure out how to do that mouth-to-mouth stuff.
If you bring those bullets any closer, I'll snatch that axe in your hands and chop them off.
Just trying to help Miss Starkweather.
Well, don't. There are some fates worse than death.
Was there something?
I assure you, however, that I'm fine. I spilled the pills earlier.
I hope Minerva don't find them. She's mighty mad at Mr. Starkweather's right now, and she fixes his meals.
What are you suggesting?
Oh, nothing. Was there something you wanted in the kitchen?
I came to see if Minerva had any of those delicious hors d'oeuvres left over.
I can look.
Never mind. I seem to have lost my appetite.
Who did he dine with? Did he eat the same food as everyone else?
Mr. Starkweather was on a very restricted diet. Low salt, low fat, so I had to prepare his meals separately. Why do you want to know about the food? You think there's something wrong with my cooking?
No, of course not. You're a great cook, Manila. The leg of lamb you served tonight was delicious.
Oh, yes, well, I've often been told I have terrific legs. So, what's the problem?
Forget it. You told me what I needed to know. Changing the subject. Do you remember who was in the kitchen when the circuit breaker tripped and the lights went out? Before I got there.
The blackout? I'm not sure. Let me think. I was in the pantry, checking the supplies for breakfast. When it went dark, it took me a moment to get the candle Mrs. Trent gave me and light it.
Yes. Is everyone all right?
I'm here and I'm fine. I was out back when I saw the lights go out.
I was in my room when everything went dark. What happened?
Old Bensonhurst forgot to pay the light bill again.
Keep that up and not forget to pay your wages.
What in blazes is going on?
Apparently the storm knocked out the electricity.
My handles did come in handy, you see. Remind me to give you a gold star later. Bensonhurst, can't you get the electricity back on?
That's exactly what I came to find out, Mr. Bensonhurst.
The circuit breaker is right over here.
Oh, I hope they hurry. I don't like the dark.
Was that quick enough for you? I'll get back to my chores now.
What did he come inside for?
That idiot tracked water all over my clean floors.
Why Mr. Starkweather doesn't fire him, I'll never know.
Any luck?
It was there, all right. I just wish I had more. If the will is probated and everyone leaves, the killer could get away. It'd be easy enough to buy a new identity for $1 million or more. There has to be a way to nab the guilty party tonight.
Well, I was hoping we'd learn more from questioning the suspects.
So was I. They were all too busy trying to make each other look guilty. They didn't reveal much about themselves. Sometimes the slightest... Simon, move your feet.
What is it?
Here on the floor. It's... Yes. What they were doing was so insignificant. I barely noticed it. Simon, I know who killed your grandfather.
Who?
I'll tell everyone in a minute. Go find Bensonhurst and have you gather everyone in this room.
Yes, sir.
Minerva sent me to see if you'd like a pot of coffee.
Never mind that now. Go upstairs and tell everyone to get down here on the double.
Yes, sir.
I don't think the police chief will mind if I collect evidence with sandwich bags. I don't think he'll mind at all.
Down my TV to work. Every day
What's going on?
Receipts.
Try my talents?
Take your seat.
It's very late, Mr. Biggs. Or very early. Depending on how you look at it. No one's going to ask. I'm not as well. Why did you call together this hour?
I thought you would all rest easier knowing who killed Simon Starkweather.
You know.
You mean to say that having murdered great Uncle Simon?
Yes, as I'm about to show you in the next few minutes.
I'm amazed, Mike. How did you figure it out?
First, I had to find the answer to a question that had bothered me from the beginning. It would have been so easy to make it appear that Mr. Starkweather had died from natural causes, a suggestion Jordan Starkweather made to Miss Withers. For example, Mrs. Starkweather or her son could have given him some of her digitalis to trigger a heart attack. So could have any of you who knew that she had them, and no doubt knew that she spilled them all over the floor earlier. Miss Withers could have achieved the same by injecting an air bubble into his bloodstream with a hypodermic needle. Again, any of you could have achieved the same by sneaking into her room and stealing it and doing the same. It's also very likely that some of you considered frightening the old man to death. Minerva with her knife, Miss Thompson with her gun, Rufus with his axe, Bensonhurst with his wrench. The possibilities are endless. Why then would the murderer choose a blood pressure cuff as a murder weapon? The answer is so simple I feel foolish for not realizing it sooner.
Might one ask what that is?
Well, when the blood pressure cuff was put around his neck, the murderer was... Mr. Starkweather was already dead. Am I right, Mr. Van Zandt?
You really are very clever, Mr. Davis.
Sometimes. It had to have been you. We were in here together when the lights went out. Mr. Starkweather began to ring his bell. I went to find Bensonhurst, and you went to check on Mr. Starkweather. The killer must have slipped into his room, killed the man, and then slipped into Miss Withers' room moments before you found the body.
That's what I figured too. As our able detective here surmised, the murderer made it appear that Mr. Starkweather had had a heart attack. Death seemed to have indeed been due to natural causes. There is no doubt in my mind, however, that someone in this house had killed him. I knew that under the circumstances, the coroner would have no reason to perform an autopsy, nor would the police conduct an investigation. I wasn't about to let my employer's murderer get away scot-free. I noticed the blood pressure cuff on his bed, so I wrapped it around his neck and inflated it before wheeling it into this room.
And you were right. No one would even suggest the fact that he had been murdered.
So young Simon hired Mr. Davis to find the killer.
Which I have. That was very naughty of you, Mr. Van Zandt. For a while, your little ploy distracted me from the main problem. Instead of asking myself who did it, I kept asking myself, why did they do it that way? Once I figured that out, the rest came easier.
Sorry, Mr. Davis, but if you have discovered the identity of the murderer, then the ends seem to have justified the means.
I imagine the police chief will agree, and might even pardon you for tampering with the evidence at a crime scene.
If not, I'm on very good terms with the local judges.
Wait a second. How do we know you didn't kill Uncle Simon?
No motive.
Oh, yeah.
Don't keep us in suspense, Mike. Tell us who did kill Mr. Starkweather.
I'll do better than that. I'll show you.
What?
Bear with me. I imagine you all still have the candles Miss Trent handed out earlier tonight in case of a blackout. Please take them out and light them.
Ooh, isn't this nice? Very Christmassy.
When I first examined Mr. Starkweather's body, I saw what I thought to be a few drops of blood. It turns out to be a different substance entirely. I forgot about that for a moment when I interrogated all of you. I noticed one of you scraping one thumbnail against the other. At the time, I took it as a nervous gesture. Turns out it was nerves triggered by guilt. A few moments ago, I found these on the floor by the coffee table. Thin scrapings of red tallow. Tallow from the killer's thumbnail. Tallow that matches the substance on Mr. Starkweather's robe. Tallow that the killer was holding when she killed Simon Starkweather. Tallow from the one red candle among you which you are holding, Fiona Starkweather.
There may have been other red candles.
There aren't. I remember thinking we needed one more for next year.
Is that the only evidence you have to offer the police? This one red candle?
No, Fiona. I have better evidence than that. A few moments ago, I examined Mr. Starkweather's body. When I was walking around the room a few minutes ago, I was glancing at everyone's wrists. I noticed that there are several very thin scratches on yours. No doubt made by Mr. Starkweather as he struggled for his life. I'll bet my reputation that these skin samples that I was able to scrape from underneath his fingernails will match yours. It'll be easy enough to prove. I've met quite a few experts in DNA testing during the last 6 months.
Bravo, Mr. Davis.
Well,
I don't suppose you consider cloning those scrapings and putting the newbie in jail, would you? I didn't think so. Well, Mr. Van Zandt, I guess my biggest mistake was trying to cross a lawyer. I may have caused you to lose access to Uncle Simon's billions, but you definitely got your revenge.
why don't you tell us what happened?
I might as well. We figured out the main details anyway. I was furious with Uncle Simon for building up our hopes and then dashing them to the ground. I thought a man that cool doesn't deserve to live. I listened at his door to the hallway and slipped inside, and I was sure he was alone. He was sitting in his wheelchair, still awake. I went to him, gripped the handles of his wheelchair, and leaned right down in his face. I told him I thought what he was planning to do was monstrous. He was terrified. He reeled backwards in his wheelchair, knocking into his bedside table. The impact sent his reading lamp crashing to the floor and the pitcher of water on top of it. When the water hit the lamp, it short-circuited and blew the circuit breaker.
So you didn't cause the blackout deliberately?
No, it nearly ruined everything. But then I remembered I had the candle in my pocket. I managed to pull it out and light it with one hand, while I had the oxygen mask off the chair with the other and clamped it down over his face. I'm not sure if he died of suffocation or a heart attack. The old man wasn't able to fight back much, but I guess it was enough to pin his murder on me.
I'm sure you were as shocked as everyone else when you saw the blood pressure cuff around Mr. Starkweather's neck.
I was. Well, what could I do? It was easy enough to guess who Mr. Van Zandt had pulled. A few moments later, I put the join the rest of you as you ran in here. I would have loved to kill you too, Mr. Van Zandt, but I didn't dare try, of course. Until now.
Easy. You don't want to do anything you might regret.
I think it's a little too late for that advice. Get up. You're coming with me.
Where would we go? The bridge is washed out.
I know where the fallen tree is that Simon mentioned. Simon, hand me your car keys.
You'll never get away.
I think I might. The bridge is washed out and all your cars are on this side of the street. It would take me hours to walk back to town and notify the police. By then, I'll be long gone.
But what about me?
I would have committed the perfect murder if you hadn't interfered. What do you think I'm going to do with you?
Nothing if I can help it.
Hold it right there.
Are you alright?
I'm fine.
You burned me!
Consider a preview of the afterlife.
I always keep these on me. You never know who comes from the candy. Let's have it.
Mike, remind me to pay you a big bonus.
No problem. Well, you're going to be behind bars for a long, long time. Anything to say for yourself?
A long time? Maybe I can start a bridge club.
It was there, all right. Just wish I had more. If the will is probated and everyone leaves, the murderer could get away. It'll be easy enough to buy a new identity for $1 million or more. There has to be a way to nab the guilty party tonight.
Well, I was hoping you'd learn more from questioning the suspects.
Me too. They were all too busy trying to make each other look guilty. They didn't reveal much about themselves. Sometimes, the slightest... Simon, move your feet.
What is it?
Here, on the floor. Is it? Yes. I can't believe I didn't see this sooner. What they were doing was so insignificant. Simon, I know who killed your grandpa.
Who?
I'll tell everyone in a minute. Go get Bensonhurst and have him gather everyone in this room.
Yes, sir.
Minerva sent me to see if you'd like a pot of coffee.
Never mind that now. Go upstairs and tell everyone to get down here on the double.
Yes, sir.
I don't think the police chief will mind if I gather evidence with sandwich baggies. I don't think he'll mind at all.
I'm tired of this guy. What's in the dark?
Come on, take your seats.
What's going on? Did you find my digitalis?
I'm so tired.
This better be important.
Take your seats.
It's very late, Mr. Davis, or very early, depending on how you look at it. Anyway, if no one's going to ask, I might as well. Why did you call us together this hour?
I thought you would all rest easier knowing who killed Simon Starkweather.
You mean to say you found out who killed Great Uncle Simon?
Yes, as I'm about to show you in the next few minutes.
I'm amazed, Mike. How did you figure it out?
First, I had to find the answer to a question that had bothered me from the beginning. It would have been so simple to make it seem that Mr. Starkweather had died from natural causes, a suggestion Jordan Starkweather made to Miss Withers. For example, Mrs. Starkweather or her son could have given him some of their digitalis to trigger a heart attack. So could have any of you who knew that she had them and no doubt knew that she spilled them all over the floor. Miss Withers could have achieved the same by injecting an air bubble into his bloodstream with a hypodermic needle. Again, any of you could have gone into her room and stolen it and done the same. It's also very likely that some of you would have considered frightening the old man to death. Minerva with her knife, Miss Thompson with her gun, Rufus with his axe, Bensonhurst with his wrench. The possibilities are endless. Why then would the murderer choose to put a blood pressure cuff around his neck and inflate it until he's suffocated to death? The answer is so simple I feel foolish for not realizing it sooner.
Might one ask what that is?
When the killer put the blood pressure cuff around Mr. Starkweather's neck, he was already dead.
What?
How is that possible?
Am I right, Mr. Van Zandt?
You really are very clever, Mr. Davis.
It had to have been you. We were in here together when the lights went out. Mr. Starkweather began to ring his bell. I went to find Bensonhurst, and you went to check on Mr. Starkweather. His killer must have murdered the man and slipped into Miss Wither's room moments before you found the body.
That's what I figured too.
Why would you put the blood pressure cuff around his neck?
As our able detective here surmised, the murderer made it appear that Mr. Starkweather had had a heart attack. Death seemed to have indeed been due to natural causes. There's no doubt in my mind, however, that someone in this house had killed him. I knew that under the circumstances, the coroner would have no reason to perform an autopsy, nor would the police conduct an investigation. I wasn't about to let my employer's murderer get away scot-free. I noticed the blood pressure cuff lying on his bed, so I wrapped it around his neck and inflated it before wheeling him into this room.
And you were right. No one would suggest for the fact that he had been murdered.
So young Simon hired Mr. Davis to find the killer.
Which I have. That was very naughty of you, Mr. Van Zandt. For a while, your little ploy distracted me from the main problem. Instead of asking myself who did it, I kept asking myself, why did they do it that way? Once I figured that out, the rest came easier.
Sorry, Mr. Davis, but if you have discovered the identity of the murderer, then the end seemed to have justified the means.
I imagine the police chief will agree, and he might even pardon you for being guilty of tampering with the evidence of a crime scene.
If not, I'm on very good terms with the local judges.
Wait a second. How did I know you killed Critical Simon?
No motive.
Oh, yeah.
Don't keep us in suspense, Mike. Tell us who did kill Simon Starkweather.
I'll do better than that. I'll show you.
What?
Bear with me. I imagine you all still have the candles that Miss Trent handed out earlier tonight in case of a blackout. Please take them out and light them.
Ooh, isn't this nice? Very Christmassy.
When I examined Mr. Starkweather's body, I found what I first thought to be a few drops of blood. Turns out it was a different substance entirely. I forgot about that for a moment when I interrogated all of you. I did notice one of you scraping one thumbnail against the other. At the time, I took it as a nervous gesture. It turns out it was nerves triggered by guilt. A few moments ago, I found these. On the floor, by the coffee table. Thin scrapings of red tallow. Tallow from the killer's thumbnail. Tallow that matches the substance on Mr. Starkweather's robe. Tallow that the killer was holding, tallow that matches the candle that the killer was holding when he killed Simon Starkweather. A tallow from the one red candle among you, which you are holding, Rufus Jones.
There could have been other red candles.
There aren't. I remember thinking we need to buy more red ones for next year.
Is this candle the only evidence you've got from the police?
No, Rufus, I have better proof than that. When I examined Mr. Starkweather's car, a few moments ago I examined Mr. Starkweather's body. When I was walking around the room, I glanced at everyone's wrists. I noticed that there are several very thin scratches on yours. No doubt made by Mr. Starkweather as he struggled for his life. I'll bet my reputation that these skin samples I was able to scrape from underneath his fingernails will match yours. It'll be easy enough to prove. I've met quite a few experts in DNA testing during the last 6 months.
Bravo, Mr. Davis.
Well,
I don't suppose you considered cloning those scrapings and putting the new me in jail. I didn't think so. I guess my biggest mistake with Mr. Van Zandt was trying to cross the water. I may have caused you to lose access to your building, but you sure got your revenge.
why don't you tell us what happened?
I might as well. You figured out the main details anyways. I listened at his door into the hallway until I was sure he was alone. I slipped in. He was sitting there in his wheelchair, still awake. I went up to him. I grasped the handles of his wheelchair and leaned right down into his face. I told him what he was planning to do was monstrous. He was terrified. He wheeled back in his wheelchair, hit his bedside table. The impact from it sent his reading lamp flying to the ground, and a pitcher of water was right on top of it. When the water hit the light, it short-circuited and caused the circuit breaker to blow.
So you didn't cause the blackout deliberately?
No, it nearly ruined everything. But I remembered I had the candle and matches in my pocket. I managed to light the candle with one hand while I grabbed the oxygen mask off his wheelchair, clamped it down over his mouth. I'm not sure if he died of suffocation or a heart attack. The old man wasn't able to fight back much, but I guess it was enough to pin his murder on me.
And then?
I blew out the candle, put it in my pocket, put the oxygen mask back on his chair, and slipped in his neck and ordered his wheelchair. Her back was to me. I managed to knock her unconscious with a brass candlestick. I suppose this is when you're turning my apparent natural death into murder, Mr. Van Zandt. I slipped through into the hall. A few moments later, Miss Collins screamed, and I joined the rescue and running in here.
I'm sure you were as shocked as everyone else when you saw the blood pressure cuff around Mr. Starkweather's neck.
I was, but what could I do? It was easy enough to think when Mr. Van Zandt pulled me. I would have killed you too, but I never dared try. Until now. Wait, what are you doing? Don't nobody move.
Easy. You don't want to do anything you might regret.
It's too late for that, Mr. Davis. Get up, you're coming with me.
Where would we go? The bridge is washed out.
I know where the fallen down tree is, Simon mentioned. Simon, give me your car keys.
You'll never get away.
I think I'm right. The phones are still out, and all your cars are on this side of the bridge. It'll take you hours to walk into town and notify the police. By then, I'll be long gone.
But what about me?
I would have committed the perfect murder if it hadn't been for you. What do you think I'm going to do with you?
Don't think if I can help it.
Hold it right there.
Are you alright?
You burned me!
Consider a preview of the afterlife.
I always keep these on me. You never know when cuffs will come in handy. Let's have it.
Mike, remind me to pay you a big bonus.
No problem. Well, you're going to be behind bars for a long, long time. Got anything to say for yourself?
I wonder if they have a big screen TV at the same school.
Good grief, what's the matter?
I'm on the phone with Mr. St. John, he's head of surgeon.
Better see what this is all about.
She's finished.
He says he just came to from a drug-induced coma, and when he woke, a fantastic solution to the play was crystal clear.
No.
Oh, really? Yes. That's brilliant. This new ending is unbelievable. You simply have to see it. It'll take me a few moments to go over the changes with the cast, but I'm sure they can handle it. Oh, there are some clues that need to go in the first act, too. So I guess we're gonna have to do the whole play over again. Wow, I never would have thought of that.
job as usual. It's such an honor to work with these guys. They work hard. This last week has been, a lot of work under hot lights for many hours. But you did a fabulous job. I'm so proud to be your teacher and work with Dawn. We had such a fabulous time together. We have another very special thing to do tonight. We have a really special guy who's been working with us since I started with the drama program at LAC. And he's got some spunk, I love it. So he and I have had a lot of time back and forth the past few years. It's been really fun. And I just want to honor him because he's a senior. He's the very first senior.